This is what the sovereign Lord says. Long ago, my people chose to live in Egypt. This is the story of Joseph. The people of God were far away and there was a famine. And as Joseph is sold into slavery by his brothers, he gets into a place of privilege. And now they're living in Egypt. However, as people are comfortable living in Egypt, they decided to stay there. And eventually, the power of Joseph goes away, and the friendship with the Pharaoh goes away, and they are just strangers in a strange land. And so eventually, the people of Egypt takes them as slaves. Now they are oppressed by Assyria. As the people of God believe in their power and in their own strength, God withdrew his blessing and protection, and so gave them to the land of Assyria for them to recognize that God is king. So God is calling attention to the people of Israel in this way. What is this? Verse 5, God is asking, ask the Lord, why are my people enslaved again? How many times were the people of God in the Old Testament were into and driven into slavery because of their enemies? It was a story that went back and back and back. So through the Bible, we see that slavery was not a one-time thing, but a challenge, an ongoing challenge, because the unfaithfulness of the people of God, because they do not acknowledge the saving grace, the power against corruption that the message of God carries, and how we resist that because we want to be in control. And when we want to be in control, we drive each other into overpowering people over people. Verse 5 continues to say, what is this? Asked the Lord. Why are my people enslaved again? Those who rule them shout in exultation. My name is blasphemed all day long. But I will reveal my name to my people, and they will come to know its power. Then at last they will recognize that I am the one that speaks to them. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of the messengers who bring good news, the good news of peace and salvation, the news that the God of Israel reigns. Verse 7 is already pointing out and predicting the birth of the Messiah. How beautiful on the mountains. Remember, the shepherds were on the mountains caring for the sheep, and the feet who the angel says, go and see the one that is born, and you will find him wrapped in what? Yes. Who brings good news. The messenger who brings good news. Verse 8. The watchmen, the shepherds, shout and sing with joy. Let us go now to Bethlehem. So, for before their very eyes they see the Lord returning to Jerusalem. Let the ruins of Jerusalem break into joyful song, for the Lord has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. And he's talking about the birth of the Messiah and how the birth of the Messiah redeems Jerusalem, the people of God. Verse 10, the Lord has demonstrated his holy power before the eyes of all the nations. All the ends of the earth will see the victory of our God. Get out and leave your captivity. Get out from where you are being held captive, where everything you touch is unclean. Get out of there and purify yourself. Verse 12, you will not leave in a hurry, running for your lives, which happened already once. Can you remember a time where the people of God, Israel, left in a hurry? Remember that? Egypt, when the parting of Red Sea and they were rushing. Okay, I'm telling you that is not going to happen anymore. You will not leave in a hurry, running for your lives, for the Lord will go ahead of you. Yes, the God of Israel will protect you from behind. This is a word inspired by God for us, the children of God. Thanks be to God. We continue paying attention to the stories that drive us to have the powerful hymns of our faith. We are paying attention to the music that amplifies God's eternal melody. To the best of my abilities, one of the ways that I've seen the power of music was when I deal or care for someone with Alzheimer's. They might not know who you are. They might not know your name. They don't know why you're there. But at some point when you start playing music, especially hymns of Christian music, they will acknowledge. They might not know every note and every word, but you know that they recognize this tune. Why? Because it's the power of the Scriptures through music. And this is nothing new. The Psalms, Proverbs, there's always a new tune being sung by God to amplify His message. Because here's the reality. I might preach a sermon, but I know that by the time you finish lunch, you have forgotten at least half of it. And by dinner, might be one word. I know that, and that's okay, because here's the thing, though. I don't preach for your memory. Right now, when I preach to your heart, to the essence that is already connected to the Scriptures. And ultimately, my goal is for you not to memorize my sermon, but for you to enhance your relationship with God. So I can preach the best of my abilities, and guess what? Leave the rest to God. For God and the Spirit to supply whatever it is that you need today. I cannot tell you how many times I have tried to preach one thing and you understand another thing. I cannot tell you how many times I feel that I hit a home run and nobody says anything about the sermon. And the time where I thought the sermon was just a regular single, it was a grand slam. Why? Because I'm not in control, and thanks be to God for that. Go Tell on the Mountain is a famous hymn that has a lot of history. Now, I apologize to Joy because I know better than to correct someone that is already speaking. You say it's okay, but it's not okay. The reality is that when you are leading worship and somebody shouts something, you're like, what? Hey, what is my notes? And it happens to me. What happens is that throughout online, there's a lot of history as to where and when this hymn was created, especially because Mr. Work, John Wesley Work, is not the original creator of Go Tell on the Mountain. He's the one that compiled the song, and the information that I found was in 1865. So it doesn't matter what number. What we have to acknowledge is that it was someone who heard a powerful song that nobody wrote, and he thought, I think it would be a good idea for someone to write that song for posterity. It would be sometimes a good idea for someone to create and to put something together. Somebody has to have the idea to put it together, especially when it talks about the history of their faith. Slavery was horrific, is horrific. It will continue to be horrific. This story tells you the story of the birth of the Messiah because of the importance that Christ is born. Because if Christ is not born, He is unable to die for you and me. So He needed to be born. And this is the story. Now imagine someone in the midst of slavery, someone that has experienced slavery all their lives. And perhaps they're the first or second generation of people who are enslaved. And they see small children that don't know any better, and the only thing they know is slavery. How good it will be for you to sing a song that talks about a hope that is born for us. Go tell on the mountain, over the hill, and everywhere, because it doesn't matter where you go. Everybody has a mountain to climb, and you have a perspective to sing this song. It doesn't matter what hill you're trying to climb today. You can sing this song from where you are. That is the power of it. And so they were singing this song from a place of lack of privilege, but they had a voice and a tune and a melody and the energy to move this message of birth of the Messiah, fulfilling the role of the shepherds, telling the world that Christ is born today. And so let's think about verse 7 of Isaiah 52. It says, "How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of the messenger who brings good news, the good news of peace and salvation." Christ being born is the good news of peace and salvation. The news that the God of Israel, what? Reigns. That God is not simply in control, but more importantly, in charge. So praise be to God, not simply because God will solve our problems, but because God won't let us face our problems alone. More importantly than somebody fixing your problems is the fact and the idea that God will not leave you alone. Even when you cast God outside of your life, even when you reject, God has promised to be your God, your people. And so God, mighty be his name, is not simply that God solves your problems, but that God won't let you face your problems alone. What a wonderful gift we have through this song, my friends. So Go Tell on the Mountain is not just another Christmas song. How wonderful is to be able to acknowledge and remember the Christ's birth in the middle of the summer. Because right now, you and I don't have to worry about the Christmas shopping list. We don't have to worry about what party we're going to. Today, in the middle of the summer, when we have nothing better to do, we can acknowledge and remember the holy birth of the Messiah. How good. Who feels that listening to Christmas music today? Right? I know it's hot. Open the fridge. Get some ice. Throw in the air. My friends, how good is to acknowledge the birth of the Messiah outside of the Christmas holiday season. So for us to understand the complexity and the significance of his birth. What is this? Asked the Lord. Why are my people enslaved again? You must remember the birth of the Messiah because of the evil of slavery. Those who rule them shout in exultation, "My name is blasphemed all day long." The word slavery often makes us think about shackles and long time ago. But the fact is that there's more people enslaved now than ever before. Some data, obviously, I found online. And this is where I can lead you to scan the QR code and find the article there where I took this from information. It says that at the height of slavery, long time ago, in the transcontinental slavery trade, there were about 13 million people that were sold into slavery. Now, there's over 40 million people sold into slavery today. And we're thinking shackles and we think slavery is done, and it's not. It has evolved and it lives and exists. It thrives under our nose. The article shows you 3 stories of new sites, new forms of slavery. It tells you the story of a young girl that was sold to be married at 13 because her family's crops were lost. It tells you the story of a homeless person who was kidnapped from a London soup kitchen to be forced to work on a caravan site. It tells you the story of a migrant worker who was so afraid of la migra, or the center of deportation, that they had to obey the traffickers' demands. These are all examples of slavery. And these are external forces. But let us talk about the internal forces of slavery. How many do we know that are slave to the demands of money or fame or alcohol or recreational drugs? There are so many different ways to slave somebody. Imagine someone that is dependent on drugs and they sell their body to their dealer. These are all ways that the people of God are being afflicted today. And they need us to continue to sing this song. Because, yes, you can tell people that Christ died for you on the cross. But equally important, you can tell people that Christ was born with you in mind. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. It rings good for you to say, my gosh, yes, Christ died for you, but that brings an ounce of guilt. You also can say, Christ was born for you today. There's a part of the song that says, while shepherds kept their watching, or silent flocks by night, behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. You and I have the role of shepherds today. God presents himself to Joseph, to Mary, to the Magi, to the shepherds, because we all have different roles to play. What is the message that you can carry today? Verse 8, verse 9, the watchmen shout and sing with joy, for before their very eyes they see the Lord returning to Jerusalem. Let the ruins of Jerusalem break into joyful song, for the Lord has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. This is a powerful message that we can sing today. And it's easier to sing Go Tell on a Mountain than to quote these verses, right? And so that is the power of music. So praise be to God, not because God will solve the problems of the world, but because more importantly, God will be with us as we attempt to deal with these problems of the world. God will not let you face the problems of the world alone. God will not let you face the problems of slavery alone. I think that as Christians, we have the right stage to tell people, I know that life has scarred you, and you have wounds, and you have been bended and broken in many ways, but you were tested by life, but by the grace of God, you're still alive today. God is not a God that is going to fix your problems, but a God that says, in the book of Revelation, he says that he will wipe every tear from your eye. By the grace of God, the people with the scars continue to have value. That is the message of our faith. Not perfection, but that God will help you overcome the challenges of life. And that this is where I want you to try to aim to memorize this verse. Verse 12, Isaiah 52. That you will not leave in a hurry. That you're not running for your life. That God can help you to hold your ground. For the Lord will go ahead of you and protect you from behind. Basically, he's telling you, God has your six, and is also running point for you. How significant is this? You know, as some of you know, my grandma died recently. And she died on a Sunday when I was leading worship. My family didn't call me until after worship, so they wouldn't interrupt whatever it is that I was doing. My mom says, your grandma died. She said it like that. Your grandma died. Okay? When she died this morning. Okay? Mom says, how soon can you be here? Well, I have a funeral tomorrow. I can be there on Tuesday. Too late. Don't come. That's what she said. I know you are grandma's favorite. And if you come, it will be way too much drama. And people want you to probably do the funeral. No, don't come at all. Do your thing over there. Okay? Okay? All right. Bye. Love you. Bye. You hurt. You hurt. But I understand. Because probably they wanted me to do the funeral. And probably it was not going to be until Thursday because I get there on Tuesday. We make preparations on Wednesday. Funeral is not until Thursday. And what I don't know is that my aunt is already having a panic attack and suffering, and she wants to jump into the hole with my grandma. And they cannot believe that she died without seeing Mario. And so me coming there doesn't solve any problem. It actually makes things worse. As I was talking to my mom afterwards, digesting this, she says, well, I told you because I know you can handle it. I needed you to handle it. I need you to be the strength that I don't have in the rest of my family. Mario, I cannot take care of you, but you need to be far away doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing over there. It makes me think about the story of Jesus when Lazarus was dying. When Mary and Martha were telling Jesus to hurry up, and Jesus says, I'll be there. And Lazarus died. And they were, in a way, bitter because Christ didn't rush into them. My friend, this is connected to this verse. The next time that you are in trouble, the next time that you feel like you have to hurry because the world is falling apart, remember Isaiah 52 verse 12. You do not have to live in a hurry. You do not have to run for your life, for God will go ahead of you and will watch your back. May you realize that God is already waiting for you over there. You don't have to hurry. God is already preparing everything for you. And not only that, but God will watch your back. This is the story of gold telling on the mountain. It's not simplifying your pain or your sorrow or the challenges, but it's telling you that in the midst of chaos, you can remain in control if you put your foot in on a ground that will not move, which is God. This is the message for today. Amen.